to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Okay, oh God, I hate these chairs. Okay, good afternoon. We are gathered here this afternoon for the June change of zone meeting. We have 4 applications and 1 decision item for the board's consideration this evening. Our first application is TC 5449R Square Bayshore. Madam Clerk, if you would please read the hearing notice.
TC number 5449, R Square Bayshore LLC. Applicant requests a modification of covenants and restrictions associated with TC 5343 in order to extend the time frame for completing the required physical improvements. This property is located in the Bayshore School District and located on the northeast corner of Oak Street and 5th Avenue, County Road 13, Bayshore, 22 Oak Street and 91 5th Avenue.
Okay, the applicant's representative is before us. If you wish to proceed.
Good afternoon, Madam Supervisor, members of the Town Board. My name is J.R. DeCiccio with the law firm of Greenberg Chorig, 900 Stewart Avenue, Garden City. I'm appearing this afternoon on behalf of the applicant, R Squared Bayshore, in connection with their request for an extension of time to complete construction associated with a previous approval of this board. With me this afternoon, I have Mr. Greg Reckler, the managing partner of the applicant. This project was originally approved back in 2017 and later modified in 2020 to decrease the number of apartments to the current amount, which is 88. In November of 2022, this board granted a 3-year extension of time to complete the approved improvements. This last extension is set to expire this November. And the request before the board tonight is no different than the request that was approved back in 2022. The site is a former National Grid manufactured gas plant, and it is listed as a state Superfund site with the New York State DEC. Construction has been delayed wholly because of the environmental cleanup process that has been underway. In reliance upon the previous town board approvals, millions of dollars have been expended cleaning up the site. I do have some pictures of the site if the board would like to see them. I can hand them up to the clerk.
If you could, please. Thank you.
So after years of testing, investigation, and back and forth with the DEC, the final environmental remediation work plan was approved by the DEC in 2023. The required remediation has been completed in 2024. The only holdup at this point is we are waiting for a letter of no further action from the DEC, which we anticipate we'll be receiving within the next few months. This past February, the town extended the site plan approval for the project for a period of 3 years. So once the no further action letter is received, building permits can be pulled and construction can begin. Before I wrap up, I just want to note for the record that the applicant has agreed to contact the Bayshore Fire Department prior to commencing any construction, and the applicant has also agreed to degrass, seal coat with velvet top flat, restripe, and renumber Bayshore Train Station parking lot number 2, which is on the north side of the tracks, adjacent to the subject property and to the west of North Park Avenue, if it is determined to be necessary that the work needs to be done prior to the issuance of a CO. And I do have the tax map number for that lot. It is 0500 344-4-39. So if the board has any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Does anyone have any questions of the applicant at this point? All right, why don't we hear from the department in the meantime?
Thank you, Supervisor Carpenter, members of the board. Stated by the applicant, this application was previously extended for 36 months back in November 2022. Since then, the town code has been changed to limit buildings in the downtown development district to 4 stories. It's under review whether or not the zoning board of appeals would need to issue a variance for the 5th story, because now that building is no longer compliant with the existing town code. The applicant should provide evidence as to why the environmental remediation for delayed the construction of this project for as long as it has, and they should provide that evidence for the board's edification. The department also recommends that this should be the final extension, should the board grant the extension tonight.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for the department? Okay, we have no one who has signed up to speak on this. If there are no further questions or comments, it seems pretty clear and that the department is supporting this last but final extension. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to, is it close the public hearing at this point? Close the public hearing and adopt it.
We have a motion. Do I have a second? Second. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It is approved. Okay, we will move along to the second application, which is Concern for Independent Living, Inc., TC 5450. Madam Clerk, if you would please read the hearing notice.
Applicant requests a change of zone for overlay of planned landmark preservation district, a town board special permit pursuant to Town Code Section 68-451A in order to modify the use requirements of the underlying district and a minor subdivision in order to renovate an existing building into 176 apartments. This property is located in the Brentwood School District and located on the northeast side of Brentwood Road and Comac Road.
Okay, is the applicant ready?
Yes. Good evening, Supervisor Carpenter, members of the town board. My name is Anthony Guardino. I'm a partner with the law firm of Farrell Fritz in Hauppauge, and I represent Concern for Independent Living, which is the contract vendee of a 12.1 acre parcel of property that is owned by the Sisters St. Joseph in Brentwood. I don't know if you're familiar with Concern, but they are a non-profit entity that develops affordable housing communities for all segments of the population, including veterans and persons with disabilities who can benefit from supportive housing. I have with me tonight Ralph Fasano, the Executive Director of Concern, Mike Volpis, a professional engineer with H2M, James Havrilla, who's an architect and a representative from R&M Engineering, and they are here to answer any questions the board may have. I'm not going to ask them to speak unless the board would like to hear from them. You can see that there are many of the Sisters of St. Joseph that are present this evening to show their support for this application. The sale to Concern is very important to them because the sale was guided by the aligned missions of both the Sisters and Concern, which is they both seek to promote housing and supportive services to people and families with limited incomes or special needs. Concern's proposal, which is going to be called Joseph's Village, is basically an adaptive reuse project that will preserve the vacant state and federal historic designated Academy of St. Joseph building that the Sisters unfortunately can no longer afford to maintain. It will give it a new beneficial purpose, and it will also place it in by placing it in the ownership of Concern, which has the resources to preserve the building. The application, as you may know, was unanimously approved by the Planning Board just a few weeks ago on May 21st. So we are seeking this change of zone, as was mentioned, from a residence AAA to the PLP district and a special permit to allow for the modification of some of the land use requirements in the underlying district. And then to convert the former school building into housing, 176 units of affordable and supportive housing. They are also seeking, Concern is also seeking to subdivide the property. They have to create the 12.1 acre lot so it can be sold to Concern. After several discussions with the town's planning department, it was determined that the most appropriate entitlement path was to pursue the PLP zoning. The recommendation was made because of the obvious historic nature of the campus and of the building, of this particular building. As you all know, the very purpose of the PLP is to enhance and perpetuate sites and preserve historic buildings and structures that have some special character or special historic or aesthetic significance in the town. And in order to achieve these goals, the PLP permits properties within the overlay district to be used for a variety of purposes, including multifamily housing. The PLP also provides flexibility to allow some other relaxations of the zoning requirements, such as bulk and area variances and parking variances, which we will ultimately need. So the sister site is made up of several tax lots. It's located in Brentwood. You're all familiar with the site. Unfortunately, the Residence A district doesn't permit the multifamily, so we have to seek the change of zone. The site has access to the local roadway network by way of 3 driveways, 2 on Brentwood Road, 1 on 2nd Avenue, and it also has a partial access driveway on 3rd Avenue at 8th Street. It is located, and this is important, only about a half a mile from the Brentwood Shopping Center, which functions effectively as the downtown of Brentwood, and it's just only a slightly further distance to the Brentwood Long Island Railroad Station. The site is also located within walking distance of bus stations of the Suffolk County Transit on Brentwood Road. So with respect to historic structures, because we have to demonstrate that for purposes of the PLP, the PLP will preserve the Academy of St. Joseph's building, which is just one of the historic structures on the site, but that's the one that's at issue. There are several that are all between 100 and 150 years old. The significance of this building was kind of focused on many years ago by the Society for Preservation of Long Island Antiquities, which is now known as Preservation of Long Island, when they did an inventory of all the buildings on the site. And they submitted that inventory to the town. This goes back in the 70s. And one of the forms, which was focused on the Academy of St. Joseph's building, it described it as an impressive Spanish missionary-style building that is one of the more elaborate buildings on the campus. Ultimately, after receiving those documents, the state considered them, and in 2018, not only the building, but the entire campus was placed on the federal and state register of historic places. So now, with Concern would be taking the 12.1 acre parcel. They would convert that one building, the school building, to 176 residential units. They will be 100% affordable. 88 of the units will be used for supportive housing, including some that will be reserved for veterans. All of the units will be constructed internal to the existing building in the former school and classroom space. The only additions that are being proposed are a new entry and elevator vestibule, and those will be designed to fit in and match the existing building. They're needed for handicap accessibility purposes. And we will be working with SHPO, State Historic Preservation Office, to make sure that the look of that is appropriate. There will be 145 paved parking spaces and 60 additional land bank spaces that can be built out if needed. There will be 2 EV charging stations, but the infrastructure will be in the ground so that if we need to add more EV charging stations, we can easily do that in the future. According to the traffic study that was submitted by R&M Engineering, the 145 spaces are sufficient or more than sufficient to accommodate the parking demand of the new residential use. The new housing will have direct access to local roadways by way of an improved driveway connecting the building to 3rd Avenue at 8th Street. And again, it will also provide that same driveway will provide the pedestrian access to the shopping center, the railroad station, and the bus stop. So as I wrap up, I just want to touch very briefly on the consistency with the comprehensive plan, because that's one of the criteria for a change of zone, and this is in fact a change of zone. So the proposed change of zone is in fact consistent with several of the objectives of the town's comprehensive plan, such as to promote housing which satisfies the needs of Islip residents and create different types of housing, diverse, different segments of the population. And as the town embarks on its latest comprehensive plan, TOI 360, one of the themes is the need for affordable housing solutions. And in fact, one of the stated strategies in the TOI 360 document is to collaborate with nonprofits such as the Sisters of St. Joseph and Concern to advance the affordable housing solutions. And that's exactly what's being done here. And then finally, Concern's proposal is, of course, consistent with the intent and purpose of the PLP, which is to protect, enhance, perpetuate the use of historic buildings in the town. It's exactly what Concern is doing. As I mentioned, the Planning Board held a hearing in December and made a decision in May. It was unanimous to recommend approval. That approval was subject to recording of a declaration of covenants restrictions that was worked on with town planning staff. I've reviewed the document with my client. They find that document to be reasonable, or the request to be reasonable, and find it to be acceptable. Concern is also going to provide certain amenities on the property and a number of off-site amenities, particularly with respect to making sure that the site is walkable to the shopping center and the train station and the bus route. So at this point, that concludes my presentation. Again, I have the whole project team here to answer any questions if the board has any, or the public after they have an opportunity.
Okay.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
We do have some cards on this, so if there are any questions now, or if you want to hold them till after the department and the public comment.
Just real quick, if I could.
Sure.
Council, I know the sisters are very committed to renewable, and they're very committed to preserving our earth and our way of life. I know that because I've seen the solar panel that they have at the properties. I know they're involved in some sort of a growing compact where they allow people to come on and grow and sell. And I know they have their own garden that they care for and help use them grow as much of their own food as possible. In terms of the new, I'll say new building or restored building, were the efforts made towards that end of making it as renewable as possible and environmentally sensitive as possible moving forward?
Well, I think there are limitations, and it might be a better question that to be directed to the architect, because I think there are limitations. I mean, remember, it's only really half of a building. The line is going to go through the building, so it has to be modified. The building was built almost 100 years ago, so there are limitations. I'm sure that whatever is being put in the building today will be the most energy efficient,
Right.
in terms of windows, doors, et cetera. But I don't know the specifics, and I'm happy to have the architect address that if you'd like him to.
Yeah, I think it's important.
Okay, Jim?
My name is James Havrilla, H2M Architects and Engineers. So yes, in fact, we will be working towards measures, and the key item here is the funding sources. So HCR, New York State, HCR Housing Community Renewals has an entire guideline for sustainability and renewable resources. We have an energy modeler on board. We're in that beginning stages of developing what is the best strategy. Of course, it's a historic building, so the historic fabric we're trying to work with, but that is the main goal of heading towards renewable and sustainable working materials and finishes on the building.
I think the sisters will still be around keeping an eye on you to make sure.
They will. They've been doing a great job to date. They've been super helpful.
Thank you. Are there any other questions of the applicant at this point? All right, Sean, if you would come forward.
The building that Mr. Guardino mentioned, in the department's opinion, meets the standards for the planned landmark preservation designation as it is on the National Register of Historic Places. A traffic study was submitted, which indicated that the proposed traffic impacts of the multifamily would be less than the educational uses that have historically occupied these buildings. The applicant will be assisting in refurbishing the local sidewalk network to make the area walkable to the train station in downtown Brentwood. All units will be affordable, and 88 will be set aside for supportive housing, which I think is important to point out because some services will be provided for the folks that live on the sites. We're expecting that that would, again, reduce traffic impacts because you don't necessarily have to leave the facility to get the services you need. They also cater to veterans as well, so they will be receiving assistance from the VA, which is another important consideration. So compiled all together, we do think this is one of the best adapted reuses for this building that will aid in preserving it and keeping it there because it's an important component of the Brentwood history and neighborhood there.
Thank you. Any questions of the department? All right, we have two people who have signed up to speak. Stacy O'Connor.
Good evening, Supervisor Carpenter and the members of the Town Board. My name is Stacy O'Connor. I'm the Assistant Superintendent for Finance and Operations with Brentwood School District, and I'm here this evening representing the Brentwood School District. And we want to express our deep concern regarding the proposed zoning change and development of 176 apartments at the former Academy of St. Joseph's campus. As the largest school district in Suffolk County, serving over 18,000 students, Brentwood already operates at near capacity. This proposed housing change targeted toward low-income families will undoubtedly result in a significant influx of students into our schools. Without additional space, this will place enormous strain on our already limited classroom capacity, student support services, class size, and instructional program, as well as staff. To be clear, we're not opposed to affordable housing. We are, however, opposed to any development that proceeds without a clear and accurate understanding of how it will affect the local school system. The district was not consulted in advance of this application, and we are asking tonight to postpone a decision until a comprehensive analysis of the educational impact is completed. We are also asking the town to require a full traffic impact study. Traffic along Brentwood Road and 3rd Avenue is already a serious issue, particularly during school hours when buses are operating and students are arriving or leaving campus. The proposed access road between a school building and its gym is not only a safety concern, but also a disruption to our universal pre-kindergarten program, which is housed in the vicinity of the proposed development. We respectfully request the following: a detailed student impact projection prepared with input from the district to assess how many new students this development is expected to bring, a thorough traffic study with a focus on how the development would affect school buses and student safety, a scaling back of the proposed density, exploring zoning adjustments to reduce the number of units. And if this project proceeds, a firm commitment to provide funding assistance to offset the additional costs the school district will bear, including staffing, classroom space, and transportation. The Brentwood community has long supported education as a foundation for opportunity. Any proposal of this size and scope must take into account how it will affect the learning environment for our children and the resources required to support them. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next speaker, Daniel Calderon.
Hello, good evening, Daniel Calderon. Good evening, Supervisor, and good evening, Board. I'm here to speak on behalf of the same exact topic. I can speak from many different hats. I have worn many hats as a member of the Brentwood community, but first and foremost, I would like to speak as a parent. I was fortunate enough to actually attend the UPK graduation for my daughter yesterday, and I could say it was probably one of the most moving moments of my life, between the birth of my daughter herself. But the amount of tears that I wept and, understanding the leaps and bounds that the program has to go through to keep on securing the classroom sizes that they, as Stacey O'Connor has briefly just expressed, I feel like this apartment is not really what the community needs at this point in time. I agree with Stacy in the point that we are all in for affordable housing. I live on Long Island myself. I'm now raising my daughter on Long Island as a single parent, and it's not easy. So I'm all for the affordable housing, but we need to focus on what should come first. And I still feel our education system should be a priority for our students and as they keep on progressing. We actually recently just had a hearing in the Brentwood School District for a charter school that attempted to kind of make their way in. Some of the expressed concerns of parents at that meeting were overcrowding in the school districts. So I feel like this is a great opportunity that we can even explore more options for possibly expanding on the UPK program that has downsized from the previous year in anticipation that this might jeopardize the classrooms that they currently have. I know there's some friends of mine who actually got displaced into another school because one of the schools had to actually move and find a new location as near as possible to the Brentwood School District, which actually bordered right into Comac. So I know some parents were very displeased that friends of theirs had to, one had to go to a school that was nearby and one had to go to a little bit further. Creates complications from a transportation standpoint as well. So there's many factors that I feel from a parent standpoint that we really should be considering. A lot of the logistical stuff have really just been covered, but I want to drill those home with, we all live in Brentwood, we're all local, and the traffic is one of the, I think, biggest concerns. I can attest that sometimes for me to get from my home, which is only about 3 miles back to any of the schools, could take anywhere from 5 minutes to at least 25 minutes. And then that's not even taking into account the train. So really, I really urge this board to really wait on any decision, do as many comprehensive studies as really possible. And I really feel that the focus should be here on the education system that we have. Brentwood is a true gem in my eyes. I'm a product of the system itself. I graduated from Brentwood in 2010. I was fortunate enough to take my education and go on to other things. I now am fortunate enough to actually work for the Brentwood School District. And it's one of those things that really came full circle. So I really urge this board to really consider, sit down with all the stakeholders who can really make an impact. And I apologize for the nervousness. I'm really trying to speak on behalf as a parent, and I really want to see this community move into the right direction. We don't really need the apartment at this point in time. So thank you for this time, and have a good night after this.
Thank you. Okay, that is all the cards that have been filled out. I would just ask the applicant to come back up and address some of the issues that were raised, if you care to.
Thank you. So first of all, I think the concern is unfounded because the estimated number of school-age children that this development is expected to generate is fewer than 10. And that is based on a number of factors. One, it's based on Concern's own experiences in other similar developments, but also in this, and again, think about who the population, which population is being served. It's people with disabilities, it's veterans, it tends to be elderly people, not people who will have children in the household. But you also keep in mind the configuration of the units. Of the 176 units, 139 of the units will be studio apartments. There's no room for children. 33 of the units will be one-bedroom apartments, and only 4 of the 176 will be two-bedroom apartments. So it's almost, in a way, like a self-leasing or self-enforcing. There's just no room to have kids there. Now, I'm not saying there won't be any children, but the estimate, based on Concern's past experiences and other similar developments, is less than 10. So I think the concern that we're going to overload the schools, this development is going to overcrowd the schools, I just think I'm certain is unfounded. And then with respect to the traffic, I mean, as a request for a traffic study, I just don't think that the people have spoken have looked at the file, because there was a comprehensive traffic study. In fact, it was not only a comprehensive traffic study, it was a comprehensive traffic study that was reviewed by the town's own traffic consultant, and then a supplemental traffic report on top of that. That was also reviewed. So there, traffic has been studied and studied. So I don't really have much more to say. I just, if there's any validity to the statements.
Okay,
Thank you.
Question?
certainly.
So, Councilor, you had mentioned that this application appeared before our planning board here in Islip. And it appears, based on the documents that have been provided to us as part of our backup information in preparation for tonight's meeting, we have two separate submissions on your letterhead with your name, one dated February 19th of 2025 and one dated April 18th of 2025. And it seems that both of these submissions were in response to concerns, I keep saying that word and so do you, so forgive the pun there, but concerns raised by our planning board in response. Did traffic come up at the planning board?
Yes, oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, traffic always
When
comes
you
up.
had a public
Councilman in
hearing.
Long Island, always, right. So you know
I
that.
have to ask the question.
Yes, no, and of course it came up. And listen, some of the concerns and issues that were raised by the public, they were legitimate, right? They needed to be looked at. And planning recognized that, and the planning department and planning board both recognized that and came back to us and said, hey, you have to address these things. So those supplemental submissions were in response to concerns that were raised by the public, but also the board members and planning staff.
Including traffic and safety.
Including traffic. And traffic, you can see, was, I think, probably half of both of those letters.
And I think you mentioned that you had your traffic safety engineer with you tonight.
Yes.
Did you?
Yes.
Maybe he could address that?
She,
She?
Angela.
Sorry.
Angela, all right, Angela Kay.
Sorry.
I didn't say her name before because I know I would get it wrong. I'm sorry, Angela.
Good evening, board members. My name is Angela Kovaleski. I'm with the firm Robinson and Muller Engineers, located at 50 Elm Street in Huntington, New York, 11743. We prepared several comprehensive traffic studies, one dated July 2024, one December 11th, 2024, February 19th, 2025, March 17th, 2025, and April 18th, 2025. The last three letters in 2025 all addressed comments that were raised by the planning board, as well as public comments that were raised at the planning board hearing in December of 2024. We looked at the traffic on Brentwood Road all along the corridor from Suffolk Avenue all the way down to, I believe, Comac Road. We also looked at traffic on 2nd Avenue. We looked at traffic that was generated by the current facility and how that traffic would change with the proposed project, and we determined that the project would actually generate less traffic than when we counted, because one of the schools that was in the building actually vacated the property, and that school would generate a significant amount more traffic than our proposed units would. In terms of parking, there's plenty of parking on the property. We addressed that in our letters also. I believe that pretty much sums it up, but if there's any other questions that the board has, I'm happy to answer.
Any questions? Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, I do have a question, please. You indicated that there will be 33 one-bedroom units.
Correct.
And according to the occupancy that is indicated here on the proposal, it reads that they will be limited to a two-person occupancy on those one-bedroom apartments. When you say two persons, are these adults only, or it could be any combination of adult and a child?
Well, it could be an adult and a child. I think, and I'll defer to concern if I'm getting that wrong, but my understanding is that, you know, ideally it's for two adults, but if somebody lives there with a child, it's very possible. But that's not what they encourage, and they do vet people as they come in. I mean, that could turn out to be the case, but that's not the objective going into when they establish that relationship with the new tenant. It's not to have a child living in the same bedroom as the adult.
I understand the part, however, you know, we got to make sure that we
Understood.
also take into consideration what the worst-case scenario may be. That's why all my questions.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah. I mean, I'm just being honest because, I mean, it's impossible to, you know, if somebody brings a child in, it'd be difficult to enforce that. You know, it's hard to know what's happening in the unit. But when they vet the tenants, prospective tenants, you know, they do not allow a child to stay in the bedroom.
Yes, I understand. So the worst-case scenario may be that there is a child per unit, one-bedroom unit. So that will be 33 children, plus 10 that you are expecting or estimating. That will bring up to a total of 43. So it will not have that greater of an impact on the school district, would it?
Correct. No, it would not. And that 10 is, I think, contemplates the possibility of what you're describing. So that's not on top of what, I guess, the worst-case scenario of 33. That's not the case. So it would be less than, I think, the 43. Either way, it's not going to have a catastrophic impact on the Brentwood School District.
Thank you.
Mr. Guardino, when they talked about walkability, is it not possible or hopefully planned that within the footprint of the parcel, which is how big, by the way?
Well, it's almost 200 acres, the entire campus.
Right.
But the 12 acres would be
So
concerns.
there are roads within the campus.
Yes.
So the traffic that is generated on Brentwood Road now, if it's, a bus coming in for services or our senior van to take the residents to the senior center, they would be able to traverse the campus.
Correct. Yeah, the campus will be open to everyone.
Also, when you talk about the access to the downtown area, as we know in Brentwood, on Brentwood Road there, and Suffolk Avenue and Ross Park, and the shopping center that's there, will the entrances on Second and Third be designed to be more walkable? Because I don't know if there are sidewalks up there that would encourage people to stay on the campus when they're going to the stores, so to speak.
Well, there will be an additional sidewalk, one doesn't already exist, that will take you out north. And then it will meet up with the existing sidewalks, which are there, which are not all in the best condition. And that's part of the off-site improvements that my client's willing to make it more, to improve those, the cracked concrete and the sidewalks. But yeah, to answer your question, the people can walk from the concerned building
Without going out to Brentwood Road.
without having to go out to Brentwood Road, right? They'll go directly north, and it's the shortest distance is about a half a mile. And I know that's kind of the goal for walkability. And it's just right there. It's a little further to the railroad station, but obviously you know where the railroad is. And, it's just another, whatever, few hundred feet beyond the shopping center.
Okay, are there any other questions for the applicant? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Anyone need to speak to the department? Sean, any questions? Nope. Okay. No, I'm sorry. Okay, do we have a motion then to close the public hearing?
Yes, motion to close the public hearing and submit this application for the board's consideration.
Okay, we have a motion, and I will second that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It is approved. You're welcome. Okay, our third application is Amity University, Inc., TC 5451. Madam Clerk, if you would please read the hearing notice.
Applicant requests designation of the subject property as a planned landmark preservation district pursuant to Town Code Section 68-449, seeks a town board special permit pursuant to Town Code 68-451A3 in order to modify the dimensional requirements of the underlying residence AAA district and a modification of covenants and restrictions associated with TC 5076 in order to operate an educational campus. This property is located in the Connecticut School District and located on the south side of Montauk Highway.
Thank you.
Good evening, Madam Supervisor, members of the Town Board. J.R. DeCiccio with the law firm of Greenberg Charig, 900 Stewart Avenue, Garden City, New York. If I can just hand up some.
Sure.
So I'm appearing tonight on behalf of the applicant, Amity University. in connection with the proposed conceptual campus master plan for an educational campus at 500 Montauk Highway, Oakdale. A property you are all familiar with, as it is home of the Bourne Mansion and was previously LaSalle Military Academy and later a satellite campus for St. John's University. With me tonight, I have Savita Arora. She's the VP of Strategy and Operations for Amity Education Group. Matthew Sipple, he's the principal of Harrow School. I have Casey Underwood. He's the project manager and architect from Perkins Eastman. Tammy Cunha, the project engineer from PW Grosser, as well as Nick Tortorella from Stonefield Engineering. They're all available to answer any questions, but I'm not going to have them put on a presentation unless the board has any specific questions for them. So the proposal before you this evening seeks approval to develop the property pursuant to a multi-phased campus master plan, resulting in a private boarding school serving grades 6 through 12. The school, which will have capacity to house 348 boarding students, will be operated by the Harrow International School, New York. That's a member of the Harrow family of schools, including Harrow School in the UK, which is one of the world's most respected educational institutions. It dates back to 1572 and has some pretty impressive alumni, including Winston Churchill. As a result of a 2012 town board action approving 380 residential units on the site, the property is partially covered by the planned landmark preservation district. As part of the current proposal, we are abandoning the approved housing development and seeking the PLP designation for the entire property, a town board special permit to modify certain requirements of the underlying residence AAA zoning district, as well as a certificate of appropriateness for the proposed student housing. Together, the approvals will allow for the construction of 4 new dormitories, the transformation of Dudak Hall into a new aquatics and athletic center, the transformation of LaSalle Hall into a new arts, technology, and performing arts building, renovations to the Bourne Mansion, which will serve as the school's dining hall, and the installation of new athletic fields, and as well as a limited amount of faculty housing. The proposal before the board not only provides for the adaptive reuse of historical buildings like the Bourne Mansion, but it also conserves the character of the community by maintaining the educational use of the property that has been present since 1926. Traffic impact study has been reviewed by the town's outside consultant, as well as Suffolk County Department of Public Works, and both entities have agreed that the proposed development will not have a significant adverse impact on traffic operations in the surrounding community, and that any potential impacts are much less significant than those associated with the 380 residential units previously approved. Boarding students will remain almost exclusively on campus and will not be permitted to have vehicles. Day students have staggered drop-off and pickup times, so there will not be a huge influx or exodus of vehicles at any given time like your typical high school. The proposed campus master plan is compliant with the town's subdivision and land development regulations, except for height. Some of the existing buildings on the site are 4 stories. The proposed housing, the proposed student housing is 3 stories. The residence AAA zoning district caps height at 2.5 stories. So we are requesting that the board waive this restriction as part of the PLP designation. I've also submitted letters of support from the Suffolk County Executive, Ed Romaine, the Oakdale Civic Association, and the Oakdale Historical Society. We have had substantial conversations with the Connecticut School District, the superintendent, and he has also expressed his support for the application. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions the board may have.
Do we have copies of those letters of support?
Yes. Yeah, they're in the back of the packet.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the applicant at this point? Okay, hearing none. I'd ask Sean to come forward, please.
Just to be brief, the bulk of this property is already within the Plan Landmark Overlay Zone District, which was put in place by the board back in 2012. The proposed boarding school is consistent with the historic use of the property. The proposed change in covenants clarifies that this particular type of educational use can exist on the property. Previously, it was limited to a university campus. Also, the removal of the approved 380 attached housing units that was approved back in 2012, dropping that from the project will significantly reduce the traffic and parking impacts over the prior approval. So based on that, the department is in full support of the application.
Thank you, Sean. Any questions for the department?
Yes, Sean, is there enough buffering, buffer zone between the residential areas and these project?
Yeah, so on the property, there are a lot of wetlands and native vegetation. Specifically, you know, there's very limited development located on the west side of the property, and it just can't be because of either flooding or wetlands. There's faculty housing in the northwest corner of the property that will be slightly visible from Montauk Highway, but will be contextual. The bulk of the eastern part of the property fronting Montauk Highway, 200 feet, is to remain natural. And then the vista from the Great South Bay, that's all to remain as is, you know, from the Great South Bay to the Bourne Mansion. And then to the east, there's substantial vegetation to the West Oakdale Recreation Community.
Thank you.
Sean, I got a quick question. If you don't mind, Madam
Question?
Supervisor. The Bourne Mansion, you said it's going to be used as a dining hall. That is also utilized for events, outside events. That's going to work.
That's my understanding, correct?
So how are they going to work that out? Obviously, dining hall and stuff would be during the day, but at night would be maybe possibly a wedding or graduation. I've seen prom.
Most likely, yep.
How would they work that out?
I'd have to defer to the applicant.
I'll bring up Matt Sipple, he's the principal, but the two areas will be completely segregated. They'll have separate means of access. The school also has security measures that are in place. You know, the safety of the students is their utmost concern. They're not gonna, you know, parents aren't gonna send their kids to a school where they don't feel safe, but Matt, do you wanna address it a little bit better?
Well, I think you said it pretty well, JR. Thank you. But yes, definitely, good evening. The entrance to the dining hall portion of the mansion is actually quite separate from the rest of the mansion. Any events that take place go in the front and go towards the ballroom side. The dining hall side is the completely opposite side, and it has two exterior entrances that face St. Joseph's Hall. So it's really ideal for us to use that side of the mansion and allows a lot of separation to where the events take place. Thanks.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? No? Okay. There are no questions or comments, so we will move to a motion.
I'd make a motion to issue a negative declaration under SECRA, to close the public hearing, and offer the resolution for its adoption.
We have a motion by Councilman O'Connor, second by Councilman Lorenzo. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It is approved.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Our fourth application this evening is VCR Self Storage LLC, TC number 5452. Madam Clerk, if you would please read the hearing notice.
Applicant requests a change of zone from Resident A to Industrial 1 in order to construct a mini storage warehouse. This property is located in the Bayshore School District and located on the south side of Spur Drive South, approximately 240 feet west of Fifth Avenue, Bayshore.
Thank you.
Missed you guys over the past 3 years, so
Oh, look at you.
Look who's here.
back for more. J.R. DeCiccio with the law firm of Greenberg Chorig, 900 Stewart Avenue, Garden City, for the applicant VCR Self Storage. The request tonight is a change of zone from Residence A to Industrial 1 to allow for a mini storage warehouse at 280 Spur Drive South, Bayshore. The subject property is comprised of multiple tax lots, the majority being zoned industrial. There is just, however, one of those tax lots that's zoned residential, and that's why we're before you tonight seeking a change of zone just for that one single residential tax lot.
One out of how many, JR?
I believe there's 4 total.
Okay.
The property is surrounded by a variety of commercial and industrial uses, including a gas station adjacent to the east and a medical office adjacent to the south. Given the other commercial and industrial uses in the immediate vicinity, the current residential zoning on site is really an outlier and probably not appropriate. The proposed mini storage is one of the lowest impact uses permitted in the Industrial 1 zoning district and would certainly comport with the nature and character of the surrounding industrial and commercial development. Other than a few minor variances needed from the Zoning Board of Appeals, the proposed site plan otherwise complies with the Town of Islip zoning code and the subdivision and land development regulations. So I'd be happy to answer any questions, but I don't, do you have any units there? The floor plan really hasn't been done yet, so they don't know. It's 2 stories with a basement, but we don't know how many units yet.
As stated by the applicant, the area surrounding this existing house does consist of commercial and industrial uses. So that does call into question whether the existing residential zoning is appropriate, which the department feels it is not. The proposed self-storage use is the least impactful industrial use and is most appropriate given this particular site's location and access and visibility. So there's no objection to the application from the department.
Make a motion to close the public hearing, assume lead agency under SECRA, adopt the negative declaration, and approve the application.
We have a motion, do I have a second? Second. Motion by Councilman McElway, second by Councilman Lorenzo. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Yeah. If I could just interject real quick. We neglected to recommend to the town board to adopt lead agency for the concern application. If we could recall that real quick and just go through that formality to comply with the secret requirements. Sure. So the concern application was a type 1 action, requires this board declare lead agency.
I thought the motion counted to that, but didn't you say assume?
On concern, he's saying on number 2.
BCR.
On number 2.
I think Councilman Quadrone made the motion.
Yeah. Do you want to, who made that motion? Was it Councilman Guardiola?
Correct.
All right, so if you would just repeat your motion, including the,
To assume lead agency.
Okay, so the addition should be for the leading agency to, okay, so I make the motion to include the leading agency in this particular matter.
and to adopt a negative declaration and to close the public hearing.
Correct.
All right, great.
And
So-
approve the motion.
Second.
Okay, we got it. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Okay, that takes us to our last item on the agenda, which is the decision item. And that is Sunrise Development, Inc., CZTO 2021. As this is a decision item, there is no public hearing on this. And Sean, if you want to just recap, since it has been a while.
Sure. If the board recalls, this application was heard and reserved at the December 2024 hearing. Just to summarize, the planning board and the Suffolk County Planning Commission recommended denial of the application, and therefore the application needs 4 affirmative votes from this board to be deemed granted pursuant to New York State town law. We received no other correspondence since that time, so there's really no other updates other than what was stated at the hearing.
And to just reiterate what, just to remind everyone, I want to put on the record the size of the parcel.
So, I mean, the size of the parcel, I think, is 20-something acres, but the side that they would be subdividing it from, I think, was only about 13 acres, and then most
So
of it would be
The
overwhelmingly,
rest of it will be left,
yeah,
okay.
natural.
Are there any questions for
Should I
Sean at
read
this
the-
point?
I never read.
Well, there was no hearing. It was closed. There is no. No questions for Sean at this point? All right. Do we have a motion?
Make a motion to issue a negative declaration and adopt the resolution as presented to the board.
I will second that motion. All those in favor?
No.
That's 3 in favor, 2 opposed. The resolution fails. Councilman McElway and Councilman Lorenzo. Motion fails. And that is all the business that is before us this evening. Thank you, Sean and Ella, for your work on all of this. Motion to adjourn.
Motion. Second.
We stand adjourned. Thank you.